Season 6 of Rick and Morty finally provides the fans with what they've always desired. Co-creator Dan Harmon acknowledged that after a while, viewers start to look for a meaningful relationship beyond the humor. So stay tuned to find out everything you need to know about Season 6 and why fans are getting what they've longed for from the start. First up, Rick and Morty has finally given fans what they have always desired. Here's what you need to know. The latest season of Rick and Morty picks up almost exactly where the previous one did. Moreover, how could it not? Several shocking disclosures were made in the Season 5 finale, including Evil Morty's ultimate objective and the reason for Diane's passing. But hold on, there's more! Imagine the viewer's surprise when the Season 6 premiere of Rick and Morty doubled down on all this with some even bigger disclosures, as previous seasons have been relatively sparing with canon and huge reveals. Our Morty's biological father, Rick, is the weird or bad Rick that our Rick has been hunting for years and who murdered our Rick's wife. The missing grandfather that Morty's original family bemoaned at the beginning of Season 1 was actually Weird Rick, the murderer, and our Rick instead took his place after Weird Rick's murder of his own family. You also considered Wubba Lubba Dub Dub to be a mouthful. That's a significant, seemingly endless curve to comprehend. Rick and Morty may have previously avoided it or elected to start over, but it appears that a new era is beginning, one in which canon is more critical than ever. Additionally, executive producer Justin Roiland recently participated in a roundtable discussion with Digital Spy and revealed that another reset is always on the table. In Season 6, Roiland said, "We're essentially rubber stamping some things that perhaps we weren't convinced were real or not in Season 3. It's a risky move for the show, but certainly much needed. But most importantly, this switch is also desperately required. Rick's undeniability funny passion for all things nihilistic can only take you so far in a universe where nothing truly matters, and where a new family can instantly replace your own. Now, even though we were unaware of it, the death of Diane has been the engine in Rick that's been driving him through this whole series. As producer Scott Martyr noted, of course, Evil Morty had a relationship with the Sanchez family as well, but this one is much more intimate than anything else we've seen on the show so far. Also, the opening post-credits scene of Season 6, which is often silly, opts for a far more tense confrontation between Weird Rick and Cronenberg and Jerry in order to drive home that point. If you're curious, they are indeed the characters' real names. Speaking of Rick and Morty, will there be a 7th season? For followers of the Rick and Morty show, big news! Exclusive information has emerged that the 7th season of the program is already under production. Season 7 of the Rick and Morty television series is coming, according to co-creator Dan Harmon. 7 years ago in 2013, the debut episode of the Adult Swim cartoon series aired. Then only recently, Season 5 came to an end. The following installment's release date has not yet been announced. Seasons 3 and 4 have so far shown a 2-year progression. However, Adult Swim announced that roughly 70 new episodes would air soon in the interim, and they will be divided into groups according to upcoming seasons. It just indicates that the work on the upcoming episodes is finished, and viewers must wait, especially since Season 6 is still airing. The date of the premiere's announcement is the only thing left to do. Now, Rick and Morty's 7th season was discussed during a panel back in 2020 at the Adult Swim Festival, where the co-creator dropped the big announcement. However, we should add that many fans are speculating the entire show should come to an end after the 8th season. But this is all speculation currently. We hope for a never-ending series. Honestly, Rick and Morty has been gracing our screens for years now, and there have been plenty of crazy fan theories floating around the internet. So let's take a look at a few. First crazy fan theory: the universe switch. It's time to dissect the ticket notion, a Rick and Morty theory. This theory, which was developed by YouTube user The Save Point Guild, links the episodes Morty Night Run and Total Recall to argue that the latter episode takes place in a different reality than the one which Rick and Morty often operate. The universes switched when Rick and Morty picked up Jerry from the Jerrybury, according to the theory. "There's our Jerry," says the core Rick. Another Rick and Morty enter the room before they can leave, and Rick calls out, "Hey, wait, do you have 5126? Instead of a Jerry Recover ticket, Morty is pictured clutching a Blips and Chits ticket. The two Ricks shrug as casually as ever and decide to exchange Jerry's. The shocking thing about this is that while Rick and Morty were handed a ticket with the number 5126 at the start of the Morty run, they returned home with a different Jerry. How else would you account for Mr. Poopy Butthole's appearance a few episodes later and his treatment as if he had always been there, at least in this universe? Next theory: the show will conclude after 8 seasons. Theories cannot be discussed without including Never Ricking Morty. The episode features many sequences from major occasions in Rick and Morty's lives and serves as a concrete metaphor for Dan Harmon's story cycle writing process. However, they cease to be canon, as the evil story lord utilized them to drive the train. This episode, according to Redditor u/Bojack's Horseman, illustrates how much more Rick and Morty fans may expect. There will be 4 more seasons of Rick and Morty before the series concludes, since the 8 railway cars stand in for the show's seasons. It's plausible that when Rick says, "We're here," he means it literally, as in, "We are here" in Season 4, given how meta this entire episode is. Another popular fan theory: Evil Morty is the original C-137 Morty, based on data from Season 1, Episode 10. This story contends that the original Morty on C-137 was Evil Morty, even though Rick had been away from the family for 20 years. He recalls cradling an infant Morty in one of his recollections. Since C-137 Morty is just 14 years old, Rick likely participated in the life of a previous Morty before abandoning and corrupting him, referring to Cooper Hood. However, viewers are unlikely to witness an Evil Morty showdown or combat, at least not the non-canon vignette from Never Ricking Morty suggested. However, this does not preclude Evil Rick from having a future involvement in the lives of Rick and Morty. It's still possible we haven't seen the last of Evil Morty. It's still feasible that Evil Morty will return at some point. Next, are super trees the source of Rick's intelligence and genius? There are 2 things about Rick Sanchez that are certain. He frequently appears to be guzzling down large swigs from his pocket flask and is a great genius, though we thought it to be just a typical alcoholic beverage. What if it was something more? You might recall Rick trying to hide Megaseed inside of Morty's butt in the premiere episode. Morty temporarily becomes super intelligent when the seeds accidentally dissolve inside of him, but the seeds have one hell of a hangover. According to one fan theory, Rick always has some sort of Megaseed juice or elixir in his flask, which gives him his intellect to avoid the hangover of it wearing off. It may be the reason why Megaseeds, rather than any previous Rick and Morty adventure, is the subject of the show's inaugural episode. We're not ready to talk about the contents of Rick's flask yet. The show's creator, Justin Roiland, once said in a Reddit AMA, "Of course, there are a ton of options available now. However, this is a fascinating theory." And finally, a wild theory: Rick is actually Morty. Rick and Morty generally steer clear of time travel stories, with the exception of a single episode titled A Rickle in Time. It can lead to complex paradoxes that are challenging to resolve. Who needs time travel in the first place when there are endless parallel universes? This fan theory, however, merely claims that Rick is actually a much older version of Morty, who has settled into a world where the original Rick was murdered in an expedition. But there are several gaps in this. To begin with, Morty would have become significantly wiser in order to mature and imitate Rick's brilliance. Second, if there are infinite Ricks, does it imply that there are endless Mortys as well? Last but not least, they don't really resemble one another in terms of appearance or personality. Rick is Morty might live in one of the infinite realities, though, assuming anything is feasible in at least one of them. Then there you have it. Everything you need to know about Rick and Morty and how Season 6 is giving fans what they want. Now, make sure to let us know your thoughts down below. And as always, thanks for watching.